I love Souls-like games. The first one I played was The Surge, so I'm relatively new to the genre. The game was awesome, and that is what drove me to play the Dark Souls trilogy, which was probably one of the best gaming experiences of my life. The progression, difficulty, and atmosphere of these Souls-like games were addicting, so when I saw Nioh was coming to PC, I couldn't wait to get my hands on it and see what adventures were ahead. The game came out, and at this time of recording, I put 30 hours into it before I stopped and started with this script. I couldn't bring myself to complete it. Something was off with it and I couldn't tell in the beginning what it was, but I think I have a good grasp on why I was let down now. Before we get into it, Nioh is a Souls-like game with a samurai twist, as the game is set in an Edo Japan time period. An interesting hook already, and that was the main thing pulling me to the game. The first couple hours were awesome. There is something about starting fresh as a newly spawned character, knowing that you can and will progress to near godlike power. You go through the tutorial, which was fine, but here starts my list of complaints. The combat and gameplay was fine, but the story, I had no idea what was going on. I had to go to the wiki to figure it out. The wiki was even confusing because it was describing things that weren't in the game, or maybe I missed them somehow. I really don't know, but what I could gather was that you play as an Irishman named William, who was fighting in a war for Queen Elizabeth I, going against Spain. You used Amrita, which was a stone that granted people power. This is what you use to level up your character, by the way, basically souls. Anyway, after using it to help fight for Queen Elizabeth, she then imprisons you so the secrets of Amrita don't get out. The tutorial consists of you breaking out of the prison, and at the end boss of the tutorial, you see the obvious protagonist of the game and you wash up in Japan. So the story was off in the beginning, but I didn't let that push me away. Who knows, maybe it would explain more about the game the further I progressed. Nope. The story was more confusing than ever. I had no idea what was going on. Being an Irish man in Japan is already off-putting. Hunting an evil gray dude who obviously isn't natural doesn't help. Everyone pretty much speaks Japanese, and no offense, but trying to remember all the ethnic Japanese names is hard. The whole setting just doesn't fit well within each other. There was just too many different things and it made the story feel uncoordinated. This seems like a weird complaint since Dark Souls and The Surge weren't known for having laid out stories. However, those games did that on purpose. You were meant to figure out what was going on. You were trying to figure out what was happening within the worlds just as the characters were. With Nioh, there was already a main plot, backstory, main characters, and everyone seemed to know what was going on besides myself. Maybe I'm just bad at following stories. Another big issue I had from the game was how the game decided to use different location areas rather than just a connected whole world together. This is a very picky problem and I will try to explain why because I feel entitled when I say it. First off, I understand every game has to be unique and we don't want clones. With Dark Souls, the entire map was connected together and I had never seen anything like that before. I still have memories of traversing for hours through Undeadburg, down to Blighttown, somehow going through New Londo ruins and ending up back at Firelink Shrine. I mean, Dark Souls 1, it wasn't perfect, but it was something else. The Surge doesn't exactly have this, but areas are big and connected in its own right. Nioh, it takes a different path. You pick where you want to go through a mission board and it just doesn't give it the authentic feeling of being in the world. The areas are also a lot smaller, with each area only having like 3 shrines on average and not many paths to go off of. And the paths you do go off of usually end in a dead end with just some loot. This in turn makes the game feel linear. There's another issue I'd like to just glaze over but not dive in depth with it. Along with the mission board, you can choose side quest. However, the game doesn't do leveling well, so you are usually a couple levels lower than the next story mission after completing one. So you have to do side missions to level up in order to progress through the story. This means that these aren't really side missions because you have to do them to level up. It is mainly filler content also, with missions such as I lost my sword, go retrieve it, or a scroll was dropped, I need you to go retrieve it. Nothing to do with the story whatsoever. The saving grace for this game is the combat and gameplay mechanics. This game's combat is very fleshed out and super in-depth. On the surface, it can look complicated. Get ready because I'm about to list a bunch of different mechanics this game has to offer. 3 different combat stances, multiple weapon types, multiple armor types, different stat lines, a seemingly infinite amount of substats, different rarities of gear, multiple items and item types, a reputation level up system, different weapon skills, different weapon combos, ninjutsu tools, omnio magic, spirit guardians, and the best system in this game, the living weapon. I won't go into detail about all the mechanics here because most of them are self-explanatory, but I will say this game is pretty much open to all types of playstyles and is extremely customizable. There's even an item you can buy to reset your skill points if you want to change it up mid-playthrough. The one system I will go into a little bit of depth with is the living weapon. Basically, you have a combat gauge that fills up, and once it's filled, you can unleash your Spirit Guardian, becoming invincible and doing a lot of damage. And the best part is that it looks super cool. It's my favorite part about this game by far. Overall, I wasn't impressed by the game, but I wouldn't say I was disappointed. The game's major flaws are its uncoordinated story, disconnected areas, and small levels. Uniqueness is important, but if you want to compete with Dark Souls, you have to do better than what was offered with Nioh. The game has a very unique, complicated, and robust combat system. It promotes all different styles of play, it's very customizable, and a lot of fun to mess with. I don't think I will come back to complete the game, but I was glad I was able to try it out.
An ironic twist. For what awaited us in the Far East wasn't love. It was monsters and death.